Good evening, everyone. This is the March 12th, 2020 Town of Monroe Planning Board Workshop Meeting. Let me point out the fire exits. There is, actually, could you please see if we have a quorum before we start even that?
Anthony Vaccaro.
Here.
Lisa McQuaid is absent. Bonnie Franson.
Here.
Jason Sawinski is running late. Jeff Manson.
Here.
And John Allegro.
Here.
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 members. We can conduct business. We do have a vacancy. So actually we have 6 members at this time, and there are 2 not present. I will point out the fire exits. There's a fire exit at the front of me to my right, which is over by the kitchen. Another is the main entrance that you all came in through, and then there's another behind me to my left. So with that, let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Actually, I'm thinking maybe we could switch something around if people are present. Berchtold, are we essentially working on the resolution? Is that where we are?
That's right.
So I'm just going to ask maybe that Berchtold can't come up first, because we're just doing a resolution, we'll be done, and I think there's going to be a lot more conversation with the other 2 applications. Good evening.
We're glad you didn't postpone this meeting because of the virus.
No, we're here. And I am going to bring up the resolution. I should have it here. Here we go. We made some minor revisions to it, so I just want the board to see a red line version of it. But before we start, do you have anything that you wanted to add or anything to discuss? We didn't have new plans. I think we were pretty set, right?
No, I think we're ready to go.
Okay.
I think there were a couple minor comments from last time, like having a surveyor stamp it, and I think there was still that issue of the greater than versus less than on the lot coverage on
I
those
thought-
plans.
At the very least, the greater than less than, I thought we had addressed
Okay,
that.
maybe I have it in my notes from last time. Maybe I just missed to take it off. But
I remember addressing that, but we can submit, we'll submit
I
another
have a
plan.
copy of my last comments if you want those.
Okay, I think I have it.
And we do have as a condition in the resolution that they have to satisfy any remaining comments.
Right.
I saw that, I thought it was your February 18th comment memo, was that correct?
That's right.
Okay, so we've incorporated that. Board members, any last comments, anything, or are we ready to look at the resolution? No? Okay. All right, so up on the screen, I have a resolution. I had just asked Ashley to make some revisions, which she has redlined. So in the title, this is a conditional approval, and because this is a 2-lot subdivision, it's a minor subdivision. So I just asked that that be added. Then under property involved, I just wanted to make it clear that this is a lot that has 2 single-family dwellings already. Each are served by their own existing individual well and septic system as depicted on the subdivision plan, so that it's clear that we're talking about existing single-family dwellings, not new lots, because there's implications for that, which we'll get into with another revision. Plans and submittals, we just added to that the short environmental assessment form, parts 2 and 3, which we reviewed and accepted probably prior to opening the public hearing, so we could do our negative declaration. History, has everybody had a chance to take a look at this? So I can just scroll through it. So history, SECRA, I didn't have any changes there.
Campbell, do you want one?
Yeah, I would actually.
You're welcome.
GML referral, that was done, it went to Orange County, and they just came back with, it was a matter of local determination. And then we have our findings. The one finding I did want added was that the planning board has further found that because the subdivision does not involve creation of any new lot for a new residential dwelling, reservation of parkland or a fee in lieu thereof under town law 277 subparagraph 4 is not required. So we do charge recreation fees or require land in the event there's a determination that a park is needed in that area. But in this instance, we're not creating any new homes, and so we're not creating any new demand. Public improvements, there are none, so security is not required. Resolution of approval, we just added, again, that this is a final minor subdivision. Specific conditions, we did add the date of the last engineering memo that, has to be addressed before we sign the final plat. Prior to the signing of the plat, applicant shall submit a common driveway easement and maintenance agreement satisfactory to the planning board attorney. Instrument must be recorded simultaneously with the subdivision plat, so because you're going to subdivide, and in theory it'll come under two ownerships, we need to have a maintenance agreement between the parties. Any further development of Lot 1 shall require a full wetland delineation. Any further subdivision of Lot 1 shall require the creation of a new access road that eliminates the non-conforming shared driveway. And these are all items we discussed. Prior to signing the plat, General Note 9 shall be modified to replace will require with shall require.
Yeah, so that was to be consistent with the prior map note and to make that condition clearer. So we hadn't discussed that, it's just a minor change to the final plan.
Okay.
Sounds the same.
All conditions attached to the grant of variance issued by the Town of Monroe Zoning Board of Appeals on November 26, 2019 are made a part of this approval, and this approval is subject to the same as if those conditions were set forth here and at length. So, clearly you are able to do the subdivision because you receive variances, and any conditions attached thereto are incorporated into our own decision. Then we just have a set of general conditions. You have to submit the necessary copies of the plans that we will sign. Approval is further conditioned upon all other approvals that are needed. I think in this instance, there aren't any other approvals, but we do, note those as a general condition to all the approvals. Again, approval conditioned upon the applicant delivering proof in writing that all fees and expenses have been paid to the town for the consultants and application and any of the filings. Fully completed entity disclosure statement signed and either sworn or affirmed by the applicant. I think we already have that on file, but again, that's a general condition. And then for your information, conditional approval expires within 180 days after the date of the resolution granting the approval, unless the requirements have been certified as completed within that time and the plat has been signed, or unless such time is extended by the planning board in accordance with New York State town law. We have the ability to extend the deadline for periods of 90 days each if, in our opinion, the extension is warranted by the particular circumstances. We would expect that you would file it, given the simplicity of this particular plat, before 180 days, but if for whatever reason it doesn't happen, just know you have to come in before any expiration to ask for an extension and the reason for that extension.
Okay.
So, is there any other comments? Anybody, something that has to be added, or we're good? Okay. So, I'll make a motion that we adopt the resolution of a conditional approval for the Berchtold Minor subdivision. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
And Noreen, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Jason Swinsky is absent, Anthony Vaccaro,
Aye.
John Allegro,
Aye.
Lisa McLeod is absent, and Jeff Manson.
Aye.
With that, approval, you have an approval, and you can move forward and do whatever is required to finish up the plans and get it to us so we can sign it, and then you can file it.
Yep.
All
Those
right?
finished plans should be in tomorrow.
Okay. I happen to be there, so if everything's in order, but we just have to make sure that Sean signs off. But yeah, we can do that. Noreen will let me know when it's ready to be signed.
All right.
All right,
Thank you very
guys?
much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Okay, so with that, let's go back to Smith Farm, 2020 Pool Recreation Center. If you'd come up and tell us about your application. I believe this is your first appearance, correct?
Actually, second. We were before the, we had a work session
Technically.
about last March, I think, or last year.
Okay. So first appearance before the planning board, full planning board.
That's correct.
Yeah. So, welcome, why don't you just state your names for the record, and then tell us about the proposed plan and what the intent is with the improvements.
Yeah, Ronald Kosser, 402 East Main Street, Middletown, New York, attorney for BMG Monroe 1, the applicant.
I'm Mark Seamers with Peter Zack and Fow Engineering and Surveying.
Okay. I don't believe I received, just so in the future, I don't think I received a digital version. Did we get a digital
I
version?
sent it in PDF as well.
You did send it?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, no, you're right. Thinking of another project. So I'll bring that up. Here we go. Okay. I believe this is it. Okay, let me just rotate it. Okay, there we go. All right. So why don't you tell us about the project that you're proposing at this time?
Sure. Well, it's been quite some time since I've been in front of this board, and this project has been in front of this board, and I see most of the members are new. Would you like me to do a quick project history, or
Yes.
Just move right into what we're proposing now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, as I said, it's been quite some time since we've been here, and everyone is basically new to this project. The approved project includes 181 residential homes. 44 of those are located within the Village of Monroe. 137 of them are in the town of Monroe. The project is accessed from 2 points off of Gilbert Street by a network of 24 foot wide roads, and each dwelling is serviced by the Village of Monroe Water and Orange County Sewer District Number 1 infrastructure. The overall project was approved jointly by the Village of Monroe Planning Board and this board in August of 2015, and the site plans were signed in November of 2015. The project was approved to be constructed and filed in 4 different phases. Phase 1 was signed and filed with the county clerk's office in June of 2017. Phase 2 was signed and filed with the county clerk's office in November of 2017. Phase 3 and 4 were both submitted at the same time as Phase 2, but due to putting up the bonds and paying the fees, those maps are still with the village right now, waiting to be signed and filed. As far as construction goes, the majority of Phase 1 has been built out. The houses aren't finished, but they're basically built with the exception of, I think, 3 lots and the approved community center and pool that's in the village. We are submitting plot plans to get building permits for the community center and pool, and we anticipate that happening in the near future. The roads and infrastructure in Phase 2 are currently under construction. And that's basically where the project stands today. So what we're here to discuss tonight is located in Phase 4 of the approved project. The area in question, which you're looking at right there, was approved as a recreation field and multi-purpose area. It's located on a parcel that's designated as Open Area D on the approved plans. Our client has identified a need for the approved development for a second pool and activity area. So what we're proposing here is a 40-foot by 20-foot pool with a smaller 15-foot by 20-foot kids pool, a small playground area with playground equipment, and outdoor pavilion area. The area will be accessed by a 24-foot wide recreation access drive. That drive was originally approved on the site plan as an access drive to the water tower. That water tower was removed from the site as our client put up some money towards the village to do an improvement to the village water system. Once that village water system improvement was completed, our water tower was no longer needed. So the water tower was removed from the site plan, however, the access drive remains in the same place. The access drive will allow access to a 22 parking space parking lot, which is the same number of spaces that is provided for the community room and pool that's located in the village. That was on the approved plan. The proposed improvements in this area will be located on the fill area that was approved on the original plan, so there will be no additional disturbance to the area. It will remain at the same elevation that was proposed on the original approved plans. So the proposal as it stands right now will not include any bathrooms or utilities up at the pool and pavilion area, so we won't be running, or we're not proposing to run any water or sewer up the access drive to this area. And we want to move this proposal forward, so we wanted to bring it in front of the board and begin discussing your questions and how we can begin to progress it.
Does someone want to start? I have questions, but anybody want to start?
Is there gonna be alternate space for open recreation that this facility is replacing?
No. There will also be, this is more of an active recreation than what was originally proposed there. There is proposed area to remain green next to the pool and the playground area, so the owner has identified that he would rather have this type of recreation than the open fields.
Are there any other open fields in this subdivision?
Just real quick, so was that recreation area that you're referring to, was it supposed to be public, or it was only for the use of the people who live in the subdivision?
No, it's all privately owned.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, the follow-up is, are there other open areas in this development?
No, there's walking trails throughout the development, and like I said, the community center and the other pool in the village portion.
What's the nearest distance between these facilities and the closest houses?
Well, the closest house is located right at the bottom of the hill. You can see on the map where the entrance drive
Okay.
comes in. So it's about 600 feet.
So not particularly far.
No.
Is there a provision for sidewalks up from the neighborhood or a trail up from the neighborhood to the pool and pavilion playground area?
There's sidewalks in the development. Right now, there's no sidewalk proposed along the access drive. We don't anticipate a lot of traffic on the access drive, so being 24 feet wide, we would expect that the foot traffic would just go up
Would
the
be on
access
the road.
drive.
Okay.
So there's no sewer utilities being proposed here?
No,
So
sir.
if somebody were to go swimming, they would have to walk back to their dwelling to use
Correct.
facilities?
So related to that, how are you filling the pool? If you
Well,
said no
they would have to
utilities?
use a vendor. There's vendors that provide that service to fill the pool, and that's how they would have to do it.
I'm just gonna try and bring up, if I can get myself oriented here. I don't know if it's showing yet, the development.
So, and also to follow up with Bonnie's question about open space for the public, was the funds provided to the village and the town in lieu of open space?
We paid $400,000 plus in parkland fees to the town.
And then there are no changes to that as a result of this application?
So I see there's going to be a pump house at one end of the facility, so I imagine you're running electric up to there. Is there any provision in the pool and the outdoor pavilion around the playground for lighting?
We really haven't gone that far into it, but it will be something that we look into.
I just didn't know if the intention was, you know, for the facility to be kind of a dawn to dusk thing, or if it would, you know, have an
I
opportunity
believe the
for-
intention was dawn to dusk.
Okay.
I mean, not night, not a nighttime type of activity.
What's the utility easement that's running through the area?
That is power lines.
So in terms of do you need any kind of consent to be able to put the drive in or to put any facilities near it? Do you know?
We will contact the utility company to let them know and provide them with a plan so they can look at it
Is it
and make a determination.
O&R or
O&R.
Con Ed?
No, it's on.
For some reason, I want to say NYSEG, but I don't know if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, you never know if it's a higher power transmission line. So
Yeah.
you can find that out.
I believe that's labeled on the
On the drawing?
site plan, the overall site plan.
I'm not seeing, at least not on this one.
Yeah, I can look into it and get you that information.
So where is this improvement in relation to, so if I look at this image, and I did get up there, the gates were open, and I can see the retaining walls. If you look at the image on the screen, is it above this, or where is it in general relative to the site? Do you know?
Well, I don't know, this is a very small drawing. I
Okay.
don't know if this will help anyone. This right here is the retaining walls that you're looking at here.
Okay,
So this area is actually up here.
you're going even farther up the hill.
So it actually comes up to, I think the highest point is located just about here.
Okay.
So it comes up to here and then dips back down.
Okay,
And we're just on the other side of that.
okay.
That's not clear yet, right, Mark?
No.
So, you know, I have some procedural questions in general, as well as substantive questions, but number one, I think it'd be useful to get at least the plan that related to that area, what had been approved, so we can compare disturbance between what was approved and what wasn't. You know, we were just talking about that this area had been approved for recreational fields, but I think what was, there was nothing beyond from at least what the old map looked like. It didn't seem that there was any fields beyond the power line, that was just going to be open space. So I'd like to see the comparison. Getting to approvals, I'd like to see the finding statement for the EIS. And this is a question for Ashley. I don't know how, so my question will be, how do we process seeker for this when it was the subject of a finding statement? And I think the finding statement was actually done by the village. They took the lead on this.
Yeah, so the village was the lead agency, and I believe the village and town adopted a joint finding statement, is that?
That's correct.
Okay,
And then that was amended, I believe it was in 2006, and then amended in 2015. So
okay,
if it doesn't appear anyway to address this specific open space area and what was, you know, going on there other than it being open space. So it seems like it may be its own new action that the town would start to review and determine if there's any involved agencies. Originally, I thought if you were going to be getting water from the village, because I believe the village is supplying water for other parts of the project, then they would obviously be an involved agency. Whether or not there's any others
yeah, I had,
required, that would be something to consider. But as far as that project, the seeker's been completed, so unless there's something in there that would warrant, you know, reopening that seeker because this affects that finding statement.
yeah, I'd like to find out what was, so also related to this with the URM zone and with this development. We're having technical difficulties, so we'll wait.
That's on.
You good? Okay. No, no worries. Thank you. What was the requirements of the URM? Because it was a cluster subdivision, it was URM. Did it, for instance, require that a minimum of 10% or 20% had to be open space, undeveloped? I don't know what the requirements are. And by including this improvement, do we trigger any types of variances? So we need more history as far as what was approved, what the bulk regulations were, if it was supposed to be open, if that met the URM, how are we affecting the overall development?
It was really intended for a combination of open space and recreation area. And the two overlap. So we think this is, the use of the property, the partial use of the property as a pool is consistent with the overall.
I don't know if that's me.
Don't point it to the ceiling, he said last time.
I thought that might be the problem.
Good way to silence a lawyer.
Gotta remember that.
George, stay over there. I'm only kidding.
Senior center, and they come back here when they're doing bingo and whatever, and I can't hear this, and everything is on 12. It's scary.
We believe this recreation use is consistent with the intent of that area, the open space area.
Does the fields that were proposed go away now?
Well, they're
or
gonna
is this in
go-
addition to?
They're going to go away to the extent of the area being constructed to service the pool. But the rest of the area will remain. I mean, there's,
So that's
There's
why I
There
think.
was never a solid plan
Right.
for the fields. They were called recreation fields, and
Okay.
then on the plan, it was actually changed to a multi-purpose area because it was going to be an open field, an open area to be utilized by the community. I have, we can submit this. We have all the resolutions, finding statements,
Yeah, I think
amended finding statement.
that-
It's all here.
that'd be great, the preliminary approval, because the final, when I looked at it, I had one version of it. It referred back to the preliminary, so it's hard to still see what was approved because probably the preliminary has more substance to it.
And all of the calculations for the URM zone are on the cover sheet of the approved site plan.
Okay.
So just to make you aware, the site plan is 65 sheets, big sheets.
Yeah,
So,
I think if we had at least preliminarily, in digital, so that you don't have to copy it, and if it's
Okay.
11 by 17s, and then if anyone wants anything bigger, but at least digitally,
Sure.
that'd be great. Coordinate with the village, because this was a project that's over the village and the town of Monroe. I would think that we should coordinate with them because there was a joint approval. So whatever's happening here, we should refer the application to them, just
Yeah.
for comment.
could I comment? Could I just
Sure.
make a comment on that? We came before this board in a work session, like I said, I think it was last May or June, I really forgot the month. And we also went to the village.
Okay,
And I went to the village after the work session with the planning board, just to get the village's take on how they felt comfortable proceeding, with us proceeding with this project in view of the fact that it was a joint approval. And what they suggested, what they were really concerned, they thought we were going to relocate their community center and pool, and this was going to be the new
right.
but that was not the case. We dispelled that. Once they found that out, their view was, and I don't mean to speak for them, but their view was you would kind of be, I'll call it de facto lead agency. They would take your lead. If you're good with it, I was to keep them advised and copy them with any submissions that we made to you, to this board. And then after you were pretty much ready, if it came to that, to grant a favorable determination to the application, we would go back to the village. And, they may have some comments and whatever, but they wanted you to pretty much develop the
plan.
planning part of the project.
Well, which makes sense, because it's
Yeah.
in the town.
Right.
I would only note that my recollection of the technical meeting was, it was the intent to move the pool, and aspects
No,
of
no, it was
the,
not.
that-
If
I
that
think we
was-
have that in
no,
our-
if that was portrayed to you in any form, that was incorrect.
right,
There
because,
was always a second pool.
okay,
There
that's,
was always a second pool.
yeah, I mean, I recall the discussion, and we were, again, my recollection was, there was discussion of it possibly being moved, and then ultimately, it looks like there's a second one here. I'm sure I have notes on it, but regardless, what you're saying now is that that community center and pool is staying in its
That's correct.
location, and then, so this is an additional
Right. Maybe we were
facility.
thinking about it, and we were discussing it informally with the town, but the village made it very, very crystal clear that that was a non-starter.
So are you going to start construction of that whole community center now?
Yes.
Okay,
I mean,
so-
in the near future.
And then is this proposed improvement going to be done as part of like Phase 4, or as part of when you get up to that area? What's the timing of this vis-à-vis when it's actually needed?
It's a good question.
That-
We'll answer it for you.
No, that's a good question, and I don't know, because then we would have to file the Phase 4 map. So
Yeah,
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay. In general, so the roads within the development, are they being dedicated to the village, or are they going to be,
No.
they're going to be private
Private
roads?
roads.
Okay. So we're going to have a driveway off of a private road? And that's the way it was
Right.
going to be for the water tower tank?
Correct.
Okay. We already talked about, you'll get us the approvals. Have the HOA bylaws been filed?
Yes.
So I think we should get a copy of that, provide it to our
Yes,
attorney.
I believe they're on file with the town.
I don't know what we have. Part of what's happened in the town is because of the mold issues and documents going places.
No, not in the old village. I mean,
They should be here?
in the new-
Okay.
In the new one.
Yeah, because I think we should look at the implications to the bylaws. Does it make changes to them as a result of
I
adding
don't
these
think
facilities?
there were any there was
Implication.
any impact to that.
Okay, so,
Because we looked into that, and, but there are bylaws that have been filed with both the town and the village.
okay.
And to the extent they're not, or they can't locate them, they certainly can be provided.
Right. I think we would want to know if, because of anything that's contemplated, if there needs to be a change to the bylaws as part of, any decision-making process. We already talked about the rec fees, so the rec fees are paid,
That's
it's
correct.
done. This is just an addition, this isn't to reduce what has already been paid.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. Declaration of covenants and restrictions, there's a declaration associated with this project, is
That's
there
correct.
not? So if it's not already on file with the town, if we could get a copy of
It
that?
should be.
Okay, so that Ashley can review that, because
And-
again,
And if it isn't, she could email me, Ashley, you can just email me and I'll provide it.
okay. So because that may be affected, I don't know if it is or isn't, but we have to look at all those
I
documents.
understand you do. I do not believe, from my review, it
Okay.
has to be amended.
So, with regard to outside agencies, a couple things. When I looked at the EAF description, the short EAF said 8 parking spaces would be located up the top, and you have 22, so,
That may have been the original plan.
Yeah.
We'll have to revise that.
so, take a look at the EAF. Actually, let me go through a couple of other items.
But 22 is the correct number.
22, what you're showing on the plan. These are really minor, but the site visit consent form was signed, but it was never dated, my version of it. So Noreen, if you could check just to make sure if
Okay.
Mr. Wisner could,
You could date, I have authority, you could date it as of February 25.
I would defer to Ashley whether that's
Is
okay.
it notarized, or?
No, not the.
I don't think it requires a
It
notary,
doesn't require a notary.
not on this
It's the form that they
form.
had me add to the packet.
It's a site consent form, just so that we can get up there if we want to be able to
It's right
visit
here,
the site.
I'm looking at it.
So,
Actually, it doesn't have a date on it. Oh, yes, it does. That should be dated the same date as the application which would actually be June 7th, 2019, because that's when it was originally signed.
So I'll defer to our attorney if that's acceptable.
Yeah, I mean, I have
Yeah,
authority
if it's on
to
the
just say add the
June
date.
7th, though, that was quite a while ago.
That's correct. That's because we were before this board initially. I had,
But I don't think we have.
I never submitted, I had it ready to submit, I never really submitted it. And we went back to the village, and then the project was kind of on hold, and then I just filed it in February.
So, yeah, so the date of the application does say sworn before me this 7th day of June 2019 on
And
the
that's the
form.
date.
And that's part of the application, correct?
That is the application, yeah.
And the applicant's representative is confirming that site consent. so
That's correct.
fine.
It
Right.
would be a concurrent date, same date.
So, on the application form where it says proposed site, deed or deeds recorded in the county clerk's office, the response was NA.
Could you repeat, people?
Sure, I'm on page
Oh,
1 of the application
okay.
form.
Right.
So I was just reviewing it. And it says deed or deeds are recorded in the county clerk's office, the proposed site
Well,
date. So why NA?
Well, because it's really superseded by the subdivision map.
Okay.
The prior deeds are, they're non-descriptive to this project. It's really the subdivision map that supersedes, that
Sure.
is the most recent description.
My question is there a new lot? Because you've created now lots in the subdivision, is there actually a new parcel for this open space area?
Yes, no. There's an existing parcel. All the
So,
tax maps, I believe, have been assigned by the assessor. This
So-
just
Closer,
happened.
can you get closer to the
Okay, I'm
mic?
sorry. Do I have to speak again or not?
Yeah, if you don't.
Okay. All of the lots in this subdivision should have been assigned, and I believe have been assigned, tax map numbers by your town assessor, April McDonald.
okay, I'm just gonna bring up a map real quick here.
For the file, but that's not a filed map, right?
No,
So
they,
phases 1 and 2
No,
are.
phases 1 and 2
so
have
3 and
assigned.
4 have not been.
Yeah, so I have to correct myself. 3 and 4 have not been, phases 1 and 2 have assigned tax maps, map numbers. That's really the status.
So what's the tax map number that was provided? Is that, you were
Um,
given one on the application, and I thought that was the actual parcel.
So I'm looking, if you look at this is from Orange County GIS, it looks like the parcels here, and this may be a little, maybe a little dated, but it looks like the parcels were created down here. So is this the?
That is
re-
dated because
You
phase
have
2
another
is
phase
also.
2?
Yes.
Okay, so I think we want to just understand what's the parcel we're dealing with in terms
Well,
of,
Sure.
because I think it's gonna either have to be a separate parcel that's created or just
Yeah.
I think
part
if
of,
you- if you
part of
look
the
at
open
actual-
space.
The tax map from the Orange County parcel records,
here, we can actually,
It might be the original.
318.
Okay.
Creating the application got a little messy with whether it would go back to the original lot numbers or if we were gonna start splitting them all up and this would be on that one lot. There's one large lot, which I
Yeah.
think is lot 69.
Yes,
Okay,
it's section 6,
Section 69,
no,
one-
section 69,
1.2.
block 1, lot 1.2.
Okay,
That's what we're talking about.
that's the overall.
what's the lot?
69, 1.2.
Yeah, and that encompasses more than just the open area because the map hasn't been filed.
Okay.
It's
here we
one
go.
large parcel.
There we go,
Right, so, can I stand up here?
sure thing.
This would be, phase 1 comes up, it includes some of this here. I think
Okay.
that's phase 1 like
No.
that.
Yeah, I think phase 1, from the hook there, from the village line, up to that house that faces that, no, yep,
These two are in phase 1.
right,
I
up,
think it comes across.
yeah, right about there, yep.
Yeah, but I think it comes up and includes those and then comes around. So that's phase 1, and then this is phase 2,
Mhm.
Okay,
and then this is the remaining area, and
Okay.
this is where we're talking about the
what's because there's phase 3 and a phase 4, right?
phase 3
Okay.
right here,
Okay,
and then there's, phase 4 is very small.
okay, so it's just a few houses
Yeah.
and, is that where the retaining wall is up on phase 4, do you know?
Phase 3 is where the retaining wall is.
Okay, so phase 4 is beyond it.
Yes,
Are there houses there in Phase 4,
yes.
above the retaining wall?
I think there's 20, I think there's 22 houses in Phase 4.
Okay. So they'll be sitting above that retaining wall, sort of, or in that
Yes.
vicinity? Okay.
And-
All right, so we
And those
just,
phases are defined in the site plan that I'll send you.
okay. So I'll defer to our attorney as to whether we need an updated deed for this property, or if a map is fine. I'm just going through what's normally part of our application.
Either way, we'll whatever you wish.
Do you contemplate a required change in zoning? No. Will final plat be filed in sections? Will it cover the entire preliminary layout? You said entire, you're referring really to the plan for this site, so. But we'll have to figure out how it affects the subdivision, overall subdivision plan. If it's a separate site plan that has to change one of the sheets or phases, that's gonna have to get worked out. In terms of seeker, I'd mentioned the 8 vehicles in the brief description. In terms of permits, approvals, or funding, so we'll have to figure out who, I guess the planning board will approve the private drive, and I don't know,
So I don't know whether that's something that's been approved already, or the extent of the approval for the water drive.
Yeah, I'm
I guess
not
that it's
sure.
listed as,
So
think-
I've made a photocopy of this section that was on the original approved site plan. The road only came up to about station 310,
okay,
whereas this comes up to 700 and change.
okay,
So it would be an extension of that already approved driveway.
okay. So a portion of it hasn't been approved previously because it's extending beyond the.
Well,
And with that too, just so the road that's been approved, it was for the water, access to the water tank, so
Okay.
now it's leading to something obviously different.
Okay.
So you definitely want to send that, get the highway superintendent to weigh in on that extension and that meeting.
Well, it's up from a private road though, would that
Yeah, I think that's
require-
what I'm trying to figure out. Does the town highway superintendent still, like in some communities, they still review private roads and private drives?
Well, you have private road specs, so I think,
That we,
That's true,
that would be the, okay.
yeah.
So we will probably refer it to him because we're getting further up. And just for, I think also just for emergency access purposes,
Yeah.
for other reasons, we'll need to review it from that perspective.
She happens to wear that same, or, two different hats. Same person wears this
I
two
was gonna
different
say,
hats.
that's
Yeah.
yeah, when this was approved, I don't think it necessarily met either municipality's specifications. It was kind of a hybrid of the two, and it was agreed upon that that would be the spec, and that detail is actually provided in this plan set. I think it's on the very last detail sheet.
Okay,
And we're basically using the same, it's 24 feet wide, just like all the other roads that are in the development.
okay.
Curbed,
Um,
curbed.
Yes.
There, as I'm just thinking off the top of my head, we will need a tree survey if the area is treed as per our new zoning law. So just be aware of that. Back to permits, approvals, funding. Does Department of Health have to approve the swimming
Yes.
pool
Yes, for a community swimming pool.
for a community swimming pool?
Right.
So we'll have to include that on the list.
Or a revision to the SWIP.
A revision to the SWIP. And I think as we're going through this, that's just a general question. What is actually just being revised because it was part of a subdivision approval, and what is new? So it's not a new SWIP, it's a
Right.
revision to, so I think we need to kind of outline, what are we revising related to the subdivision versus what's kind of new? You know, the tree standards are new. So you'll have to, as part of this application, review what's coming down, and we'll be consulting with our environmental council or commission.
also with the tree survey, the landscaping plan too, whatever landscaping's proposed.
Right, and do we have architectural review for this? Because they're accessory facilities, but if there's any buildings or anything, is that part of?
But
is
it's
that-
a site plan amendment, right? So if they would?
Yeah.
Isn't that for
Yeah.
every site plan?
So just be aware, we'll probably at
Even
some point
single-family.
ask to see
Right.
what it's going to look like, because this board now has architectural review authority since the amendments back in 2017. I noted that it does state that the project area is within an archaeologically sensitive area. The area that you're putting the facilities in, I don't know if it was already studied as part of the prior
It was.
analysis. So if you could submit something that demonstrates that, the area potential effect included this area, then we don't have to send it off to SHPO. Otherwise, we'll just send it off to SHPO.
So when you say, you mean just sending the
The
approved
cultural-
site plan?
So the cultural
Or
resource.
find the cultural resource study and send you that?
Yeah, the cultural resource study, which should have a map where they did any shovel tests, or that, to make sure that they looked at this area. And then,
It would have to be referred to SHPO as part of the SWIP amendment
anyway?
anyway.
Okay. I think.
Unless it was already signed off, correct? If this area was already studied and signed off on.
Yeah, I guess if it was already studied,
Yeah.
yeah.
That
But
was
then I guess
done,
not.
and that was done, I don't know when the SWIP was originally filed. So when we say SWIP, we're talking about the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. I don't know if that was before or after that requirement that,
Yeah, and
It'd be sent to
the
archaeology.
general permit just got updated a
again,
month ago.
right?
So whether or not this application would be under which permit is a question as well. I
Yeah.
have to look into that.
So we'll need to look into
Yeah.
that, the SWIP. Okay. And then we will send it to DEC, just because it's a new application. Northern long-eared bat, Indiana bat come up, so,
Mhm.
they'll probably want their standard note at least.
To that end, too, the outlet of that, I'm not sure if that's a stormwater basin or something, but that's shown in the wetland buffer. Maybe you want to pull that out, because that could require a permit.
Was that a DEC or a Army Corps?
DEC.
DEC?
I assume since it has the 100-foot buffer. See
Unless
that, Mark?
that's,
Well,
unless that's our town.
yeah, I think it's a town wetland buffer, but
Oh,
I'll verify that
okay.
for you.
Yeah, well, if you could look into that,
Sure.
because we have our own buffer requirements as well.
For either.
Yeah, so I haven't looked into what kind of wetland it is. And then I would just ask Ashley, in terms of the entity disclosure form, so we have BMG Monroe, and it's signed, and it says Section B, list all persons, officers, limited or general partners, and then it requires that the name, address, and telephone number be provided for the individuals. And the individuals are provided, Mr. Brock and Mr., is it Wiesner or Wiesner?
Wiesner.
Wiesner. But then the address is in care of the attorney. I don't know if the intent of the entity disclosure form was to have the applicant's, the entity disclosure's address, or if it can be a CO. And I don't know the answer to that. Just to make sure these things are filled out properly, these documents.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that.
And then just take a look at if the articles of organization, if whatever was submitted, then documents that in fact Mr. Wiesner and Mr. Brock are BMG Monroe 1 LLC. So this is, I think in terms of what this is, it's an amendment, and I guess the question is, I don't know that it's a site plan amendment, or if it's a site plan and a subdivision.
I believe it's
It
a
would
site
be a-
plan modification.
Yeah, site plan amendment, and there's actually a note on the plans too that deal with revisions to the open space areas, and it says any revision to the open space area requires a site plan amendment.
Okay, so site plan, we don't have to worry about subdivision. Other than if there's things that are shown, have to be shown on the subdivision plat, I don't know. I don't know what's on the subdivision plats now, so we'll have to see what, if anything, it may entail in terms of revisions. I just don't know.
Like any notes requiring a subdivision amendment, you mean?
Yeah, yeah. So utilities, water, you mentioned vendor will fill the pool. In terms of phasing, again, we may send this back to the village just as a matter of courtesy. And then I think at this point, I'll ask Sean and Ashley if you have any questions from the initial review.
Yeah, you covered most of mine. I just had two things additional. Could you just do like a box on the location map to show where it is on the site we're talking about? I was struggling at
Sure.
first.
Sure.
And then, when looking at the zoning map of the town, I think there's like 3 zones that come together near this part of the parcel. So maybe you should show the zone lines on here for clarity. I believe this portion of the site is in the SR10, but,
Sure. Yeah, that's no problem. We actually have that on the approved site plan.
okay.
So, and
Well,
just remember that,
the new lines?
I don't know that we don't know that the lines change, just verify that with
Okay.
the new map,
Mm-hmm.
it's still in the SR10.
Sure.
I don't think there was a change, but just confirm.
And then just one more, that swimming, I should say, the accessory use number 5 of the SR10 says non-commercial swimming pool, so the board should determine whether or not this is a non-commercial swimming pool.
Do you have a copy of comments?
Typically at the work sessions, we don't provide
Okay.
comments.
Ashley, did you have anything
I
this
think
evening?
most of them were covered as well. Will require referral to the county.
Okay.
Public hearings discretionary, but if you do have one, then it'll have to go to the Village of Monroe and Town of Blooming Grove.
Should it be referred to the town of Blooming Grove as well, since it is,
Is it right on the,
it's
Well, I
directly
guess
on the
'cause it's,
line?
yeah, looking at the way the,
Has been before.
This is the town line here.
yes, I'm just looking at the tax
so if
map.
you're sending it, to the village, definitely because
They're
it was a
part of
joint
the-
project.
right.
But, I mean, it can't hurt to, if you want to send it to the Town of Blooming Grove as well.
Okay.
There are requirements in the code, section 5742, for commercial and non-commercial pools. It sounds like this will be a non-commercial swimming pool, but there are screening requirements and things like that to definitely take a look at. And I don't know where you stand with the public security agreement and whether there's been estimates already for this phase, but that's something, if this is going to be, new public improvements that are going to be added in, there'll need to be a cost analysis and.
Right. The original project, we submitted all 4, we submitted cost estimates for all 4 phases, which at the time of approval were signed off on. And every time we go to file a new phase, Sean's office looks at them again, makes sure they're appropriate, and then
Okay.
sends a letter to the town board for the posting of the bonds. So we'll take a look at how we would need to revise that 4th phase, or if it would be a separate bond that we would put up.
Yeah, I do not know, that's for sure. Oh, because we definitely need some history to understand where this fits into everything. So related to seeker, from my perspective, we'll, want to look at SHPO to see if it was covered already. We'll want to communicate with DEC as far as, because of the Indiana bat and the northern long-eared bat. And then I think the other aspect of it would be, if it's undisturbed, just from a visual perspective, what will be seen? Is it going to be nominal because we'll see the development in the foreground? Just some sense of, what are we going to be able to view? And then I think we need to find out who would be the contact person. Who do we coordinate with if other board members want to go up into that area? Because it is a work site, and frankly, I snuck in, but really, we shouldn't be doing that.
No, what I would prefer is I would be the contact.
Okay,
And then I would set you up with the manager on site.
okay. So maybe just for ease, we may try and coordinate where we can all go up there at one time.
That's no problem.
Okay. All right. Anything else? I think that's it for the moment.
Covered a lot.
Okay, so at this point, the application is deemed incomplete, and then we'll get additional information. Once we have a better sense of the plans, we can delve into, and get up to the site, we can delve into the layout and find out how it fits into the prior approvals and how it can be amended.
So are you going to wait till you get our additional submissions and then schedule another work session, or?
Yeah, we'll put you on another agenda, so
Okay.
you'll submit, you'll get on another workshop agenda, and then at some point, when the planning board has enough information, we'll send it out for GML review and decide about, again, whether we would want a public hearing or don't need a public hearing, but we need more information at this point.
Okay,
All right?
gotcha.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Too.
Stay safe and healthy.
You too.
Stay 6 feet away.
Shut a whole public school district down in Bergen County.
Oh, that's,
I think all the schools in Bergen County.
Wallkill up in Shongum. Oh, so it's, yeah,
It's scary.
yep. All right. So the next item on the agenda, I think that's the end of the meeting. So Yoel Tossel is not here. So with that, I think DG Management is up. I think John's sense of humor is wearing off on me.
There you go. Without humor, what do we have? Would have been cruel.
All right. So let me pull up plans. And why don't you let us know status? You sort of went away for a little while, and you were working with O&R,
Yes.
and why don't you give us an update?
Sure, I think we were before you last in September. And we had gone through the conventional plan, ultimately trying to get to a final lot count. We were going to return to you, I believe, at the regular meeting. And then we got hit with a letter from Orange and Rockland, basically indicating that they didn't formally recognize the 50-foot easement that we were showing from the prior filed map, and that they weren't going to allow that. So then that started our long and arduous journey with them to this date, where we believe we finally have worked out an agreement with them that they would allow us to put a driveway at that location. After much back and forth, we did receive a letter from them on the 31st of January, basically indicating that that is the driveway that is shown on the plan set that you have in front of you. It essentially is the same driveway that we've had. They're just formally recognizing the easement, which went from 50 to 10 for the driveway. It took a long time with them, back and forth. They had a hard time understanding that this wasn't going to be the plan ultimately that we would be pursuing. And once we got over that hurdle, the next hurdle that they had an issue with was that they wanted to know where the original 50-foot easement had come from. I said, look, that was a filed map back in 2003. It was their take on it that they don't provide easements on filed maps. They only provide easements to private homeowners. And since the ownership has changed, they no longer recognized that easement. So,
The one that in question with the driveway?
yes, that was on the filed map.
That was on the file now, okay.
Correct.
Interesting.
So we got over that hurdle with them, and we ultimately now have the plan that shows the 10-foot wide easement coming from that lot, which they have agreed to.
Okay.
And nothing else on the map was revised. So I think that was our last stumbling
submission,
block.
okay.
Because we had removed lot 10, which was
Right.
the other lot with the driveway going to the easement, so those concerns were allayed because we basically removed it from the map.
So I'll just read the letter, so it's into the record for those who haven't had a chance to look at it. It says, it's from Orange and Rockland, and it's addressed to DG Realty Management and Lankin Tully Engineering and Surveying. As you're aware, Orange and Rockland Utilities has an easement or right-of-way located on and adjacent to the property, including on the property known as Section 1, Block 1, Lot 78.2, currently owned by Mr. and Mrs. Jacobowitz, the Jacobowitz parcel. In response to your request, O&R has reviewed the drawing entitled Sketch Conventional Subdivision Plan prepared for DG Realty Management. Drawing number A170014-01 dated June 6, 2018, and last revised January 22nd, 2020, to determine whether the proposed location of a 10-foot wide driveway across the Jacobowitz parcel as shown on the plan will unreasonably interfere with O&R's easement rights and its use and enjoyment of the O&R right-of-way. O&R has no objection to the location of the proposed driveway as shown on the plan. However, prior to any construction of the property driveway or any other construction within the O&R right-of-way, O&R must review and approve all engineering, design, and construction plans for such work. Any submissions for review and approval by O&R must allow for a review period of a minimum of 30 days. Nothing contained herein shall constitute consent to the location of the proposed driveway by the fee owners of the Jacobowitz parcel or any governmental authorities. We understand that you've obtained an easement from the fee owner for the property driveway in the location shown on the plan. Nothing contained here shall consent to the location of the proposed driveway by the fee owners or any governmental.
Yeah, what they're saying there is just because we're approving it, you can't just go and build it.
So they're not consenting, it's just that,
Well, they didn't want this letter to feel that maybe the ownership changes and that all of a sudden, oh, we have an approval from Argent Rock, let's just go build this driveway
Okay.
without this board's approval or the property owner's approval.
okay.
That's what that means.
So, we were, I believe, so everybody remind me, we had already prepared a resolution that allowed 15 lots.
So where you left off in September, you talked about it and did a straw poll and then directed me to prepare a resolution, which I was doing before this issue arose with Orange and Rockland. So I've since revised that resolution and sent that to you for this meeting, but it is 15 lots.
Okay. All right.
So I'll add one concern, I forget what day it was this week. When reviewing the application, the cul-de-sac diameter was the right-of-way diameter of the cul-de-sac was 50 foot for the radius. The town road specifications require 60 foot. So I had called John and they revised the plan to reflect that because of course that would affect the lots and the lot areas, which John's office did revise and did send me a PDF, and I actually just sent it to Bonnie and Ashley.
So the board doesn't have that in front of them?
No, Sean and I had just talked basically yesterday.
Okay.
So we worked pretty much all night to get that done. We sent that out this morning to Sean.
Yep, so the plans that were submitted are not the
Correct, these without.
these
them
are
revisions.
revised since then, yes, but, after a cursory review, it doesn't appear that there's any change, and all the net areas appear to meet the minimum of 10,000 square feet, so.
Did you send that to me?
I just
Emailed?
did.
Literally just did?
Yeah, yep.
All right, let me just see if I can, there it is. Okay, so this is the revised plan.
Yeah, that's the conventional, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because we're trying to get to yield.
Right.
And so now they're showing a 60-foot diameter.
Right, so essentially, all that changed was the diameter of the circle.
That's right. So the basic layout has stayed the same, and then some of the lot lines were shifted to accommodate the larger diameter.
In doing the shifting, when you created a larger bulb, then there should be more frontage, right, for each lot on the bulb?
Correct.
You didn't change any lot lines from the conventional?
No, we did. The lot lines have been adjusted because what I did was I've lost area. So I had to make up
So you did
area.
shift some
Yeah,
lines
so-
around?
Yeah, for instance, basically all these lots have stayed the same, starting with lot 5. This became a little narrower, and then lot 7 became a little wider, lot 8 became a little wider, 9 became a little different configuration, 10 stayed the same, and the rest of these stayed the same. So it was kind of like a shift this way and a shift that way.
Okay,
Because this bulb, if you think about it, went from here to there.
right,
So in order to make up this area, we had to shift all the lines accordingly.
okay, because you were so tight with the acreages for,
Yeah, well,
Some
of the
I
net,
mean,
for
one
the
of the
net,
lots
yeah.
was almost close to 2,000 square foot difference where that
Okay.
went out. And we kept the same, I wanted to keep the same arrangement. I didn't want to go around and twisting the ball, turning the ball. So this lot lost a lot of area, so I had to make that up going through.
Okay. Sean, have you had a chance to look at the lots to make sure they meet, especially the lot width requirements?
Right. I didn't get that in depth. I just received it this morning, so I haven't confirmed. I mean, I could scale several of them now if you'd like.
Well, let me ask the board how they want to handle this. So there's been an adjustment, which we haven't reviewed and we're just getting now. How do you want to proceed? Do we have a meeting next week?
We're supposed to have one Tuesday night, that would be the only thing on it.
This would be the only thing?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I'm thinking it's a little tough to look at it now, but we could put you, if the board agreed, and we could possibly put you on Tuesday. So that will give us a couple days to look at a plan that we just got.
Good. The only other thing, the shifts are all, it's basically minor shifts throughout to get to the areas that spread out. I don't know if you want, if
Yeah.
possible, I don't know if we'll have a meeting next week, the way everything is shaping up in the world, but.
Mean St. Patrick's Day?
Yeah.
Mr. Queenan?
That's right, that's right. That's right, well, we can have it early enough, right? No, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
The board would
I mean,
consider
we're just
making
getting
it a condition
plan, so-
of Sean's office's sign-off confirmation that the lots work. I mean, I think we've been,
Well, so I could present this. So I would ask Ashley, could we do a resolution that's conditioned on, or is that not such a great idea?
It really wouldn't, you wouldn't be able to go back then and change it. It really should just be what the yield is.
Okay.
I mean, conditioned on Sean's confirmation that everything is.
The narrowest lots are 5 and 6. They are exactly 75 feet,
Okay.
so.
Well, let me ask the board members how you feel about this. If you want to decide this evening, again, can you condition it
Or I
on
guess if you condition it
confirmation?
on confirmation,
By
that
Sean?
just that, what the bulk or the lot width
Yeah, I
is
think,
as,
yeah, I think we just want to make sure that that everything's complying,
Mm.
so that this is the conventional yield. So I'll start, Anthony, what are your thoughts?
So if we had another meeting, this would just be confirming what this plan says
Yeah.
it purports to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't see the point in that. If we can do that condition smoothly, that's fine with me. The only question I had was, last time, I think we talked about a public hearing, and I'm not sure if we agreed or we turned a corner on approving the conventional layout or the cluster layout over the conventional. I mean, if we go down the road of a cluster design, then there's no going back to the conventional plan.
so the way the resolution was framed was to set the maximum yield and then direct them to proceed with the cluster. So once you adopt this resolution, you're telling them you want to proceed with the cluster. Now, 15 would be the maximum amount of units. It's not, it can't go above that, but that's not to say, things can change in the interim, of course, but as far as a public hearing, that's going to be required for any subdivision down the line after SECR is completed and.
SECR has to be completed, the design has to be actually engineered, but the path that we're on is to be reviewing the cluster subdivision, and they have to now meet the cluster subdivision standards with the
Well-
50% open space or whatever the other requirements are.
Well, back to the original question, if we can approve a conditional on the 15 lots based on the engineer's review, then I'm good with that, doing that tonight.
You're okay with that? Jeff?
So to me, it looks like the biggest change is transfer from, of a significant portion of land from 9 to 8.
yes.
I actually think 7 looks a little better to me on this plan with the 60-foot radius. As long as 9 is okay, nothing else should be a problem. You just checked the lots that you took a little bit of width from, a very small amount of width, it looks like. So if 9 is okay, I'd be okay with moving forward with the resolution. I don't know if Sean can look at that real quick and just say,
What's your concern with 9?
well, since there was a significant amount of area taken away from that, does it still meet the lot size
It
requirements?
looks like there was, but it was a lot of area. Well, I wanted to make it so that wasn't an odd-looking lot.
Yeah.
So originally, it went like this, and then it went like that.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, what we did is, once I needed a little more width on 8, 9 doesn't need all this area anymore. It really fits well with 8 going back. And this is all area in the easement anyway, so there's no change on who.
Honestly, it makes more sense to me this way than the way that we were looking at. Again, as long as not, just because I see that quite a bit of land came away from 9, as long as it's still got enough area and
Nine
They
was the,
reported it's like 14,000 net area with the, it looks like there's some steep slope subtractions and possibly, the easement for Orange and Rockland through it.
so it's well over the 10,000.
Right.
So I think you have to net it out, you still need to, you need to show the steep slopes or what area.
I think it's on the next sheet. Well, not on this one, but
Well, that's what I'm saying.
on the 2 lot.
So on the one that Sean is going to review and come to a determination, he needs to prove out the net.
Yeah, I'll just give him sheet 2, which was the grading, with the
Okay.
contours. I just didn't
Okay.
provide it because we were
I
rushing.
actually have one in front of me that has the grayed out. Is it?
With
did it not come
with that
through
lot
with-
shape? Oh, maybe it's on the second page.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Chris will.
So
Yeah,
this one,
there it
okay.
is. Yep.
Chris gets an A for the day. From my office, he did the work.
He's very good.
Yeah, so
All
everything.
right, so the
everything great.
information's there then to be able to do measurements
Right.
and make sure everything
And
is meeting
I
net, et
believe
cetera.
on sheet 1, the bulk table has been updated to correlate to those areas. So
Okay.
it'll say subtraction for easement, subtraction for steep slopes.
Mhm.
Okay. Jason?
Not to rip open this Band-Aid again, I still think the yield is 16. But that's not the issue at hand.
It's not my bad.
Like I said, not the issue at hand. I'm fine with Sean's condition on this.
Okay. John?
I agree with Jason, and I agree with Anthony, so I have no objection to moving forward with the resolution based on the engineer's determination.
Okay. So Ashley,
So you would want to add a condition that this resolution, I had previously sent to you, I believe, that it's conditioned on the planning board's engineer confirmation of the
Lot width.
bulk lot width. Is it just lot width? Is that the
I think the whole
was-
bulk
you could
requirement.
just say
is
the
bulk
bulk
requirements,
requirements?
yeah.
Okay.
so can I borrow your resolution? Thank you.
Pass this one to
Should
you,
we,
so I don't wanna
should
have
we
it.
read it? Oh, thank you. Should we read it into the
You don't
record or
have
no? No? Okay.
Whichever you.
They have to waive the section.
Yeah, so that's all in there. If you want to read it in there, because that does talk about,
So we talk about the 15 lots, last revised January 22nd, so
so no,
that,
that's going to be changed to March 12th, 2020.
okay. So just for everybody's information, at the top of page 2, where it talks about the subdivision last revised, instead of January 22nd, it's going to say March 12th, 2020? Is that the date?
Yes.
Last revised?
March 12th. Yep.
Okay. Okay, so we'll add a, I don't know if it's a now therefore be it resolved or further resolved, but a condition that the engineer shall confirm that the March 12th, 2020 subdivision, conventional subdivision plan shows 15 complying lots. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes, and you could add it in, into that first now therefore be it resolved, oh, I thought you had it up there, sorry. Where it says, now the planning board of the town of Monroe does hereby establish that the maximum residential yield for DG Realty Management, upon review of the conventional layout, is up to 15 lots or dwelling units, subject to the planning board engineer's confirmation that the March 12, 2020 plan shows conforming lots that conform with the bulk requirements.
15 lots
Sorry for throwing this on you at the 11th hour.
to the zoning requirements, zoning bulk requirements.
Better now than
Okay?
later.
Also, the planning board would have to waive, it's a condition in here, but that the planning board has to waive the cul-de-sac length.
Right. I think
of the
we've done.
500 feet.
Right.
Yes, that you agreed to.
We did agree to that, and I think this is memorializing it.
Yeah, exactly, that last whereas clause.
Yeah. Okay, so with that, would someone like to make a motion to approve the resolution establishing the residential yield for the proposed cluster subdivision of DG Realty Management LLC as amended?
Make a motion.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Jeff Manson,
Aye.
John Allegro,
Aye.
Jason Swensky,
Begrudgingly, aye.
Anthony Vaccaro,
Aye.
and Lisa McQuaid is absent.
Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So with that, the resolution passes on to the next stage.
Yes,
Okay?
which if we could, I just have a question on the next stage.
Okay.
Thank you. The cluster plan and the calculation of the open space.
Mhm.
Is the calculation of the open space based on the total acreage of the parcel? Or is it based on the buildable acreage of the parcel? So in terms of, our parcel's 9.5 acres. So do we need 50% of the 9.5? Or is it 50% of the buildable acreage?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think we have to ask Ashley, who may also, I don't know if we need to run it by Ben, but at a minimum, let me see if I can bring it up at least.
50% of the gross area of the parcel.
Okay, so based, so 9. And can the open space be in areas, for instance, the easement?
So the open space is supposed to protect, there's supposed to be conservation value to it. Let's see if it says what the open space can consist of. Building height, and open space. Nope. It's ownership, maintenance, site plan approval. It really just talks about what's to be included as open space. Is there another section dealing with open space?
Do we have a definition of open space?
I don't see one in the subdivision.
This talks about the preservation of the important physical, cultural, natural features, steep slopes, freshwater wetlands, 100-year floodplain, ag district, view sheds, recreational resources. Open space is referred to, I think, in town law. I don't know that it's defined under cluster development in town law, but that's the whole purpose of it.
To be, yeah,
Cluster
usable,
development.
open space that it could be used, whether it's passive recreation, usually that type of, because there will be ultimately be a conservation easement that's on this. And I have to look just closer at the town's regulations and what they say, and then also the requirements in town law. So I don't know that I'll have an answer
Okay. But
right now.
If
But
you
we
could
can
just,
talk about that.
yeah, if you could just look into that,
Mhm.
because that's going to drive, obviously, the whole layout for the next step.
So if we go to what New York State town law says, intent is cluster development shall mean a subdivision plat or plats approved pursuant to this article, et cetera, et cetera.
And actually, Bonnie, if you look at the town's cluster development.
Yep.
Section, it's 5721.7B3A.
7,
So it there talks about the
B or
conservation value of.
D,
No, I'm sorry, B.
B.
BA. 21.7.
Oh, sorry.
Mhm.
The wrong section. I don't know how I got that far. Yeah, I don't know where that went. Am I there yet?
I gotta hear you. Want me to read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the section says, in order to determine the conservation value of open space on a specific parcel of land, the applicant shall prepare and the planning board shall review a conservation plan of such parcel. The open space protected pursuant to this section shall have a conservation value, in quotes, which may include historical, ecological, agricultural, water resource, scenic, or other natural resource value. Lands with conservation value include scenic view corridors, agricultural land, land with prime farmland soils or soils of statewide importance, aquifers in the recharge areas, ecological habitat for sensitive species, historical buildings or landscapes, large areas or contiguous forests, ridge lines and hillsides visible from public roads or other public areas, state or federal wetlands, lakes, water bodies, and stream corridors. These areas should be mapped on a separate conservation plan which clearly demarcates these areas.
Okay.
I thought you had done some
I did
conservation value mapping.
We did, and I did submit a sketch cluster. And what the cluster plan basically does is it, shrinks everything to the interior of the property. But the open space then goes around and encompasses the easement and then comes back around. So if the lands of the easement can't be considered open space,
I think that's the key question.
we're getting hit twice, and there'll be no way to provide the 50% because half the property is the easement.
Right. I think that's the key question, because does property that's within a utility easement and always has been,
Correct.
and is really controlled by O&R, is at conservation value? And that's really the key question.
Yeah, and that's what led me back to my first question is, do I base it off the 9.5 acres when, 4 of those are under an easement that we didn't take into account in the conventional, and now we're gonna get hit on the cluster side of it.
If O&R, though, has an easement there to construct or put in their utilities at some future point, then that would eliminate
Conservation
value.
value, right.
so
So this is a unique property.
Yes.
It's not like other properties, and it's specifically unique because of the fact that it has a major utility easement through it. So how we come up with conservation value, whether it's possible that, I don't know, let's say, again, it says no less than 50% of the gross area of the property. If ultimately what gets conserved is less than that, then would that require a variance? And it would be based on the unique circumstances of this particular property. I don't know the answers. I don't know if we can waive it. But I think these are things that Ashley will investigate.
I don't think you would have any waiver authority, but whether there's a variance, an area variance, perhaps that could be
obtained to reduce what would be required for the open space area.
Do you have any, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, John.
Do you have any documentation as to what the easement allows, what it's pertinent to?
Oh, I lost one kidney trying
Yeah.
to get that driveway.
No, I'm just saying, because if it's only transmission lines, then
That's all it
that.
is, but Orange and Rockland, basically, they act like they own it. And
Right.
they do nothing there.
Yeah. My experience and it happened after 9/11, that people used to be able to put gardens and, patches, and now after 9/11 and the security of their
Correct.
utilities, they're much more
Correct.
stringent as to what they'll allow there, and that's just the reality.
It is, yeah, and even utility crossings, underground utility crossings, it's just very difficult to get anything there. And,
Okay.
you know, passively, yeah, it could be used passively. But again, I don't think they really want anybody walking, you know, under and around the power lines and the towers and that stuff. So, yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, they're not going to put a nuclear plant
No.
there, which means, they're probably not going to change the character, whatever character
Yeah.
there is of the ground underneath
Yeah, they
the
won't do-
lines, right?
Yeah, no, they're not gonna do anything there except
Yeah.
just continue to mow.
So John, let's talk about what the acreage is of the total parcel
Okay.
and what's in the easement and what is left.
I can give you the acreage of the total parcel is 9.5.
Okay?
I would have to calculate what is left. I don't have that number handy
Okay.
at this moment.
Could probably add it up from the chart.
Probably. But I'm thinking you're probably in the range of about 4 acres or so, maybe slightly less. That's in the easement. And then the balance is, we'll call it the buildable portion. So I think we're really looking at almost an even split there, 4, maybe 3.75, 4.25.
What's the scale on this map?
These are 50 scales.
50? Let me see if I can do something quick here.
And the easement width is 150 feet.
So it starts out, can you see where I am?
Yeah, it starts.
I'm just going to do a scale ratio here.
You could use the lot line dimensions.
So I can go to here, here. It's all this area, right? Generally? I know I'm not doing it.
Oh, no, gotta stop here.
Oh, so it doesn't, oh, right,
The easement goes, yeah, but our property goes here.
right, okay, sorry.
Are you doing that in PDF?
I sure am.
Wow.
It's my little secret.
It's about 3.7 acres.
So that would be, that's what I came up with. 172,798, let's say, divided by 3.9 I come up with.
Wow.
I'll
That's
show you how to do
impressive.
it. So if you have a 9.5 acre site, right? 9.5 divided by 2, 50% of it is 4.75 acres that you have to preserve as open space.
Correct.
You have 3.9 acres that's in the easement about, right?
Yes.
So if we subtract 3.9, we're left with about 0.85. That is outside the easement.
Should be 5.8.
I'm thinking about if you need 4.75 acres of open space and 3.9,
Oh, yeah, okay.
right?
Yes.
What's left outside of the easement for open space is almost less than an acre, right? It's 0.85 acres about. But you need actually 4.75. It's how do you even get it without,
If you take
Unless
if you take the
significantly-
easement out, you mean?
yeah,
Right.
right.
I don't think it's possible.
It's we get about 1 acre of open space.
That's why I
Unless
wasn't
you,
sure.
unless you can,
That's why I wasn't sure if it was based off of
Unless you
the
condense
actual
it.
buildable area. So you would take out the open space, you would take out the steep slopes. Those are areas that
Yeah.
you're getting
Yeah,
taxed on twice.
I think that the key question here is that, so the gross acres is the gross acres.
Yeah.
It's, so you need to provide the open space, and the open space has to have conservation value. If you don't, if we all agree, or the majority agree, that a utility line doesn't provide a conservation value, then we have to figure out what the implications are. And it may be that it's still okay to cluster up to a point to maybe be able to put trees back in, that had been cut, that could benefit the view shed. It may require a variance. But I think the first step is determining whether the utility area has conservation value. And I think that's what we have to determine, and I don't know the answer to that. And
That's why I
so,
brought up to
if someone told me that,
conversation.
Indiana bats were living there, then maybe I'd say that there was conservation value, but we know that they clear cut the utility lines, and they maintain them, as well, with various agents to to make sure that they're defoliated, so you don't get a lot of growth there for maintenance. So I think we have to all think about this, and Ashley has to think about this for us, and we need some guidance as to what to do. And then the only other thing I would throw out there is that in this particular instance, if there's not a lot of conservation value, we're required to cluster. Does the cluster make sense? And I think that's the second aspect of this. So I think we need to investigate that now that we know generally what the lot yield is. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. Again, this is just a very unique parcel with the easement on it. And not, most parcels don't have this easement on it. So it's pretty easy to come up with 50% gross, open space area. This is just unique.
Correct, and I think, and the other question I had was in terms of lot size. I have the cluster layout, it's based on 10,000 square foot lot sizes. I don't know if the board is looking for that size or smaller, and then.
Yeah, I think that the board has to look at, again, if we're going to create open space, it has to be meaningful open space. And the extent to which one has to cluster depends on what's going to be preserved. And at this point in time, because it was clear cut, there were trees there. And so you could have had open space that could have been a little bit, again, of a screening and a buffering. And maybe that can be achieved after the fact through some clustering and through some addition of trees within the area where it had been clear cut. So, we should get our commission involved to see if, what their thoughts are also about what areas are worth preserving. If it's just bedrock and there's not much there, then, and you can't plant trees, then I don't know what conservation value that's going to have. So we really need to look at the site from that perspective.
Okay. So where do we go from here? Do you need anything?
So I think we have the conservation plan, I think that was provided a while back.
Yes.
That if there were any wetlands, anything on the site, you had mapped that.
Yes.
So I think the board needs to look at that map.
Okay.
And we need to seriously deliberate how this should be developed, this parcel, given its unique character. And then we need to consult with our attorney.
So do you want me to, I'll just resubmit that map, just
Yeah,
so that everybody has it, and
Yeah.
then we'll come back next month.
I think that's fair.
Discuss it.
Yep, you can show the steep slopes, you can show, and I think we'll look at it from the scenic perspective, where can we see the site? Maybe we'll want to understand if you clustered it, can you still see, is there visibility of the units? From my perspective at least, I don't want to see big homes sticking out, up on a ridge line. I'd like to see it screened. The issue is that, like I said, it's been clear cut. So to achieve that, there would have to be plantings.
Correct, and we've.
And to mitigate it. So then where should that happen? Because that might dictate then where your open space area is. What are other people's thoughts?
As I was reading through the code, and just being familiar with that property, the thing that stuck out to me is what might possibly provide value is the phrase ridgelines and hillsides visible from public roads or other public areas. So There's Route 208 that runs along, which is fairly heavily trafficked. The site is very visible from the intersection where that comes together with North Main Street by the mobile gas station. As most of the traffic through that intersection moves through there and towards the highway. And so that ridge line is very visible. Taking those kinds of things into consideration, there's also downhill from there, across Route 208, a town park that I know the town has been put into use a little bit more and is looking to get some more out of that space. So if there's a way to take that into consideration and build conservation value in where it protects the view shed there, because there's not a lot else up there, really, especially at this point. You know, my other comment would be, I would think that there's got to be an opportunity to do some replantings, considering there were trees there in the past. It wasn't all treed, but there was more trees than there was in the past. So it just sort of implies that there's an opportunity, at least on part of the property, you know, so we can take into consideration, well, maybe where trees were eliminated, that's another opportunity to come back and bring back conservation value.
Or maybe buy a piece of property and then we get to our 4.5 acres.
I'll leave that up to the applicant. I think we can accomplish that, because what the cluster does essentially is, when we just drafted it, you know, the road comes in and then on the conventional comes over to here, and what the cluster does is it pulls it all back to the center.
Mhm.
So I think we're on the right
Yeah.
path. It pulls it back from Arico Terrace, and it pulls it back from those lots along Scunnamunk.
Right.
And I think that'll give us the ability to put in that buffer and that landscaping.
Yeah, I mean, driving along Scunnamunk, even with what's existing, the view up to there is kind of minimal.
Yeah.
From that angle. But
Correct.
when you're coming in from the village and heading out towards the highway from that intersection, that whole
Yes.
ridge line is just
Yep,
huge.
and that's why we
behind
thought, okay,
all the
let's-
development that's there.
If we pull it all in, you won't be
Yeah.
able to then see it, because it'll be too far in to see.
Mhm.
I don't know why my little man doesn't want to land today. Oh, there he goes. Yeah, so I think we need to look at kind of the view shed.
Right, so that's the edge of kind of, well, it's across from the town park property.
Right. But you were saying from Scunnamunk.
Well, yeah, but even before that, can you go down where right, that's looking at it from Route 208, and there's a fair amount of screening there.
Mhm.
But if you head down towards where the gas stations are, the
Okay.
FAR gas station.
Yeah, you'll be able to,
Yeah.
Like over here.
And, yeah, by this mobile station, and swing the perspective around.
This is.
Behind, yeah, it's all along behind those trees there.
Well, and I don't know that these trees are actually on the DG property or not. Those trees may be part of the other properties around it because of the fact that it was clear cut.
Well, it wasn't clear cut to the property lines. I believe there was a 10 or 15-foot offset from the lines.
Have you done a tree survey?
Not yet.
Okay. That would be useful because you need to do it anyway as part of the law, the zoning law. So if there's a tree survey, it'd be useful to document what's left,
Okay.
you know? That might help. Get back here. Where does the property, it's mostly over in here, right?
You lost
Oh,
the
I don't know what happened. Did it come out? I think that was it. Yeah, like, there's some kind of loose connection here. There, okay. So is it all in here, and then once you get back here, it's a different property?
No, it continues to run.
This way?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. Okay,
Quite a
let's get up here.
It's all along in here. Because the
Yeah,
entrance from Scunnamunk is going to be in.
Basically, once you
here.
pass Arico Terrace,
So,
All around.
then
So
there's a
here.
bunch of parcels
Yeah.
in front of it.
So the print center, it's behind the print center.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if you can see this kind of up.
Well, yeah. Yeah, you'll be able to see up Scunnamunk because that's the O&R.
The O&R line.
Yeah,
There you go.
there it is.
Right. But that part of it right here on Scunnamunk isn't on the property, right?
Correct.
Isn't that the Jacobowitz's property?
Correct.
Yeah.
The property starts where the first utility pole is.
Okay.
And when you get up to there, you've hit a high point and it starts to slope down again.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, because right
from-
now,
From Scunnamunk on the
That's
side
gonna
where
be-
you enter in,
right here is where the property roughly starts.
Right in here.
Yep, and then you, like Jeff had just said, you get up to like a high point, probably right around here, and then that's
it kind of comes in like down, but also down this way.
Yes.
Like slopes towards the Print Center and down towards the Rico Terrace. And then it's when you get right over by the terrace, it sort of cliffs off.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's it on the USGS. That's it on the USGS topo map, although it's not.
Yeah, that's
slowed along.
680 right there in the center.
So
Right
that's
there.
like the little knoll. You have one
Mhm.
here, 690. This is probably 680 or 690. So it's actually like a ridge coming through here
Mhm.
this way. And the
then-
utility easement is following it.
Yes.
And then this is just basically, I think, the bedrock in here.
Outcropping here?
Yeah, the
outcrop,
outcropping,
outcrop.
and then that extends all basically down a Rico Terrace.
Yeah.
That's actually an old map because it's not showing what was cleared. And
Yeah, if you, where it's lighter, that's where the utility line is. That's where they've cleared. You can kind of tell on that.
Yeah, I think it'd be useful to also show, if we can, the property lines. Oh, will you do that? Do you have the property line? You have the surrounding property lines and the trees
Yes.
on the aerial?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
On the aerial version?
Yep.
No, so the problem with this map is that it's a map that shows the property before it was cleared.
Correct.
So,
I think
yeah, no, that's all you have,
Yeah.
unless you go out and shoot it. So that's why we can't tell to some extent
Well, we
where
have,
the trees are.
I have drone. We can do a new aerial if you want.
Yeah?
Yeah, yeah, we do it all the time.
I think that'd be useful.
Yeah, we just go up, hour.
Because to determine the conservation value, we're looking at a map that doesn't show realistically
Yeah.
what.
No,
so-
we can do the
The
drone
drone?
flight, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, it's
perfect.
It's actually very simple.
And then when you do it, you can scale it and.
Oh, yeah, it'll plop right in, like,
That's what you could do for the next meeting,
okay.
okay? And this is perfect because it's still
Plus
off
the
leaf.
tree survey, yeah.
And it's off leaf, so we should look at what you can see now
Yeah, you'll
with off leaf
it's-
conditions.
It's pretty good resolution, to be honest with you.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Get you away from crowds.
But I think it would also be beneficial to provide, while we're still off leaf, like the view from,
Take some shots.
yeah, from Scunnamunk where the road, where the access road would come out, from the intersection by the mobile station, and maybe, 208. Because it
Right.
definitely doesn't look now like it does with all the,
Right.
in the pictures with all the,
Yeah,
the
well,
leaves.
in
It
the
just-
winter, you lose all that. So.
yeah.
Did you send, something that you can be doing, because we do have to comply with seeker, is that I think you can go and we could send a letter to SHPO and send a letter to DEC to see what comes back.
Okay.
I think it's just, even though we're not at lead agency and doing coordinated review, I think just sending out some letters in advance to know what might be there would be useful. I don't know that anything's going to come up as far as SHPO, but, DEC is probably gonna say the bats,
Yes.
So why don't you do that so that we start to get some responses from those two agencies?
Okay.
Because you have to do a SWIP, so you have to do it anyway, right? You have to consult with the archaeologist, Sean,
Yes,
so
correct.
you might as well do that. Okay,
You can do that. Sure.
all right. So that gets us down the seeker path.
Yep. Well, that's plenty of work.
Any other comments? No? All right,
All right.
thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Submittal date is the 26th at noon.
26.
for an April 9th meeting.
Okay.
On the what, 26th of March?
March 26th, there is a conflict with the 9th meeting, I know, with Joel Mann's project,
Okay.
because it's Passover that night. So he has to be on the regular meeting for April versus the workshop because of Passover. It'll be over by the regular meeting.
Okay.
I had sent you that email on that.
Okay.
So I think with this one, still the same submittal date,
Yep, we'll get it on the 26th.
but it's just the later meeting because of your holiday.
Understood.
I'm sorry?
Understood.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Don't
Likewise,
breathe.
everyone.
If you're going out on St. Patty's Day,
I would never think of that.
Coming here, right?
just stay 6 feet away from everyone.
Well, St. Patty's Day may, kill all the viruses.
Yeah, I think it will.
Goes along with it.
Good night.
Good night, folks. I think we only have minutes.
Well, these two items are in your packets as well that you
Okay.
asked for. Actually, this was given to me by Mary Ellen, State Environmental Quality Review Act.
Okay.
SECRA.
It's not on our agenda?
No, they gave it to me, copied it, and said, get it to your board members.
Okay, so,
It was emailed to you, and then I
Yes.
printed it for everybody.
so the town is contemplating a floating zone, and a draft generic environmental impact statement has been prepared and I believe accepted by the town board. I believe they're going to refer it to the planning board for their consideration. But at this point in time, we've only received a notice. So I think we have to find out if they're actually going to send digital copy, hard copies, and if they want us to spend time at a meeting reviewing it. I have a question in because Nelson Pope and Voorhees prepared the DGEIS, so I don't know if I have to recuse myself. So I've asked that of Brian and I asked that of Ashley. I don't know that it's appropriate for me to review something. I didn't work on it, wasn't involved with it, but still.
But because it was,
Right.
I mean, it's not, see, well, I don't know what this board's role would be. It would be in reviewing it, but obviously not in making recommendations. You wouldn't have any approval authority over it,
Right.
but, because your firm was.
Right.
I mean,
And I wouldn't want to put, to get anyone in the situation of it being problematic
Mhm.
down the road. So, I've asked Brian and, if you could look into that. My instinct at this point is to recuse myself
Mhm.
and let the board and Jeff Field handle, any comments.
Certainly the safest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if anything, just, for appearances or. if it's an
Exactly.
Actual conflict.
Right.
I think that makes the most sense.
Right. And then secondly,
David Tompkins papers.
I had sent a resume. Dave Tompkins is someone I happen to know from the town of Shawangum. He's actually on their Conservation Commission. He's been doing wetland delineations for a very long time. I don't know what the rates are for wetland scientists, but his was 210, which seemed high to me. I can go back to him and find out if that's the rate. He does have associates that would be in the field with him that were more in line with what I would anticipate. So there may be other wetland scientists, but we need various professionals to supplement Ashley's firm and Sean's firm in areas of wetland delineation. The other area was in traffic. And wetland delineation we need for Meadow Hill because they wanted us to look at their wetland. If we agree and that they're not impacting a wetland, both consultants, then it doesn't have to go off to the Army Corps.
And he would be able to do endangered species as well?
I believe so. I think he's done
That's another one I
actually,
think they need for Meadow Hill.
right. And so that was the other consideration. So he may be higher, but he also provides other services.
Both, yeah.
The traffic consultant that I reached out to was Mazer Consulting, who does, essentially, they had purchased John Collins, which was a traffic engineering consulting firm that did a lot of consulting in the area. They represent the county. They have done some reviews on Ninninger Road. This is related to the Monroe Commons project And I spoke to John Collins. He had called me, and he was going to check with the county to make sure it was okay if we wanted to retain them. They've done a lot of traffic in the area. We know that I believe it's Creighton Manning that's representing the applicant, so we need our own traffic specialist. If it's not Mazer, then we have to go out and find someone else. We have a hydrogeologist, Jeff Fredericks, so that's covered. And that's, so I'm trying to get information on firms and information to provide to the planning board so that we can kind of collectively decide who we want to retain.
I had sent the chair and Noreen a bunch of firms that I work with on when it comes for my developer clients. I sent you my 2 cents on them as well as my contacts there.
Okay.
Have you had a chance to look at them, or?
My recollection, and Noreen, you can actually, if you received it, circulate it to everybody.
Okay, I'll send it out.
I think you had mentioned Sam Schwartz.
Yeah.
Sam Schwartz is, I believe, mostly a transportation engineering firm out of the city.
Yeah, they also do work in the metro area as well.
Right. So I don't know that they do things as local as Mazer does, but let's circulate it around, and if we want to get quals, we can get quals from them as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's where we are with that. Anything else?
So as far as for Meadow Hill, did you want to actually go ahead and have the board take a vote on that, or are you still shopping around? Because I know they were trying to get that that moving, but it would be something that requires the board to to approve to hire them as a consultant.
Should we try Dave Tompkins for at this point, or do you want me to shop around for a few other consultants?
I don't know one thing about wetlands delineation, so I'm going to defer
Rob
to
Torgerson's
the
still on
local
the scene?
experts on that one.
Pete
I
Torgerson.
believe. Pete,
right.
son.
Yeah, Pete Torgerson, I like Dave Tompkins.
I'm fine with that. I have no opinion.
I will talk to him about his rates. If everybody's okay with me reaching out to him and they're generally okay with Dave, I want to find out about his rates and if we can, again, I think we have to be reasonable to what's going in our area, and I'll find out about that. And then I'll get back to everybody and we can make a final decision because I do need to get out there.
So do you want, then you would make that at the next meeting, or do you want to
can we say
set a rate that you think is acceptable, and hopefully he'll agree to that at this meeting, and if not, it'll come back to you and just thinking about how to do it so that it keep things moving.
I mean, do you have a sense of what would be reasonable for a wetland scientist?
Just in my experience, I've seen wetland delineations for probably 3 to 4 acres for $3,500. I don't know how much actual time that takes.
Right.
Is it typically a flat fee?
Yeah,
typically.
it's like a lump sum, and it's based on the size of what they think the wetland's going to be. So the hourly kind of, throws me a little bit.
Right.
But they're actually validating what's already been done, so hopefully it wouldn't take that much time.
Right.
I don't know, maybe we should just
Hence
wait.
the inflated fee, maybe?
Yeah. You know what, I think we should just wait. I know they're anxious to have someone get out there, but let's just wait one more month, so I have the opportunity to talk to Dave, and then see who else.
Could the board authorize?
You gave them already maybe the details about this specific map, because they might be able to give you.
Actually, that's a good idea.
An
I could
estimate?
show it to them and then say, what would be the estimate to get out there? Because I think we want to be mindful of,
The applicant.
the applicant and reasonable costs. I definitely think they're qualified, but I'll talk to them. So that's a great idea. I'll send them the map. So we'll leave it at that then. Anything else?
The only other consultant I had looked at my notes for Monroe Commons was landscape architecture. Someone had said Karen Arndt.
Yes.
So do you want me to get all her rates and stuff like that?
Yeah, why don't you see if she's available?
Okay.
So Karen Arndt does a reviews up in the town of Montgomery, and she's excellent. She's very good at understanding screening, In fact, we may want to use her also for DG Realty when we get to that point.
Okay.
Because she looks at it from the perspective of soils, of what's going to survive, what in the area is being subjected to infestation. So I just think she'd be really good to utilize.
Yeah, we work with her in the town of Newburgh as well for the
Okay.
planning board, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about landscape architect, we talked about traffic engineer, and then we'll continue this for our next meeting.
Cool.
Okay?
Yep.
All right, anything else?
Yeah, if we can just jump back to the CCR for a minute.
Yep.
If the town board is holding public hearing on March 25th, how soon do we need to take action on getting together our thoughts and comments? I mean, their written period is through April 6th.
So I don't have a copy of that actually, so I'm not sure what you're looking at.
I don't know what he's looking at either.
What action are they taking? Did they accept it as complete already, the
You don't have
DEIS, or?
Didn't you
that's
send
why-
that to us?
They're doing the public hearing on the DGIS on March 25th. And then it's at,
Okay, so it's been
Yeah,
completed.
it's been going on for a while.
Okay.
They know what I think.
So to have, for this board to submit comments,
Noreen,
they have
you
an
had sent-
extended period, so after, and it would make most sense for you to talk about it and get written comments in by April 6th,
Yeah.
which probably, when's your next meeting?
Ninth.
After
Right.
that, yeah.
While Ashley's looking at that, just to let everybody know, there is a tech meeting tomorrow to talk about a bakery. I don't know, we just got some information on it. Noreen, did you send that to everybody?
No, I just sent it to those coming to the meeting tomorrow.
Send it to everybody just so they have
That's
it.
fine.
Thank you.
Sean, do you want a copy of that?
Please.
Yeah, so that's
Thank
the
you.
time for
Give
written
that back to
comments, is,
Jeff. I had extras.
April
Sorry,
6th. You
somebody
could
else.
see, if they'll, for this board, allow you to discuss it at your meeting on April 9th and then get something,
To them,
to
right.
them.
because otherwise we're going to have to do this
For
on the
them.
17th. Is our only meeting between now and the
Right.
expiration of that April 6th period, correct?
Mhm.
Unless we
Or
wanted
you-
to hold a special
I was
meeting.
just gonna say special
Yeah.
meeting,
Other than that, we're on our own.
yeah, because I don't know that, you have a copy of the draft yet, or electronically if you have it, or,
I suspect it's on the website.
It's on the website.
okay, so then.
Yeah, the draft and the amendments are all there right
Mhm.
on the homepage.
Okay,
I mean, it might be beneficial if we have an opportunity to hear whatever public comments there are on March 25th, and then
mhm,
integrate all that into our conversation. If it meant holding a special meeting, the question is, would there be availability from everyone to do that?
mhm. So it would be between March 25th and April 6th.
March 30th and 31st are fifth Mondays and Tuesdays, that would be.
Yeah.
That would actually work because it's an extra.
Right.
Yeah, the 26th and the 1st are out for me, with other meetings.
You have meetings or you don't have
I
meetings?
have meetings those two. The 26th and the 1st I wouldn't be able to do.
Okay.
Anybody available on the 30th?
Yes.
Jason, we were just talking about the possibility of holding a special meeting to discuss the CCR after the public has made their commentary on the 25th, but before
Yeah,
the,
30th works.
and that would give us enough time to encapsulate our comments in writing.
Mm-hmm.
You should reach out to Lisa. If I recuse myself, you have 4 here. Or we should still reach out to Lisa.
And what we could do
And-
is we could discuss, whatever comments you want to do, and I could put something together then that, a written letter to the board on behalf of the board,
Mm-hmm.
to the town board on behalf of the planning board, however you want to do that.
And that'll give us a couple of days to review the video. We can review it over the weekend and be prepared for Monday.
So for me, the date's not important. In fact, the 30th Monday, I couldn't make it, but I don't have to be here. So,
All right, so we're not having a meeting on the 17th.
correct.
All right, because I have to put out a notice. But we're having a special meeting on the 30th.
And hopefully that doesn't there's not, hopefully there aren't
There
any other
shouldn't-
meetings
Yeah,
if it's a fifth,
It shouldn't be.
Mhm.
right?
Right.
And that the senior
Yeah, I have
center's
to make sure
available.
the senior center's available.
Right, so you'll need to find that out, and we need to have George here and plan
that work
with
for George
cookies or
and you
something else.
You won't be here. I'll double check on the senior center tomorrow as well, and I'll let everybody know.
Okay, so we'll follow up on that.
You could do a motion to set the special meeting for the 30th, and did you want to do 7 or 7:15? Jason, 7:15?
7:15.
So someone needs to make a motion and second that, since I will be recusing myself.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we set a special meeting for March 30th, that Monday, to have a conversation about any comments that we would like to make on the DGEIS for the Conservation Cluster Residential Floating Zone, and those comments would be to the town board. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Wait,
We're
wait.
doing a pending,
Oh.
pending availability.
Pending availability.
Yeah, aye.
Are we limiting the agenda to just cover the DGEIS specifically?
Yeah, I don't think we want to add any other regular
right.
items onto it. It's just for
Yeah.
this,
Just for clarity.
Thank you.
although I shouldn't say anything. Sorry,
Cute.
I didn't say that.
Okay, I said it. Yes, limiting just to that conversation.
All right.
Amending the motion.
And we're going to require a second motion to cancel the 17th?
Um,
I don't need a motion to
No,
cancel.
that's,
I
there's
just have
just
to
nothing
post.
on.
Okay. I don't know, maybe it was
Right, that's a
approved at the
regular
beginning of the
meeting?
year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, but as long as Noreen just posted on the
Yeah,
website
it says
and
we
at
have the
town
right
hall.
to change and cancel,
Okay.
so I will.
Unless everyone wants to come on Tuesday.
No, that's fine.
All right, so all in favor of our meeting, a special meeting on the 30th?
Aye.
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 I recuse myself.
And is that contingent on Lisa being here too, or we have a? we
Yeah,
have
If
a
the
a-
four of,
without-
yes,
Four.
if you four are present, then Lisa, either way then.
I know that the town board's working to get another board member. I don't know where that is in the process.
I know
so-
that they've been looking for applications, I don't know either.
Okay, so right now
I've
we're
answered
still,
questions, but other than that.
so I don't know if there'll be someone, but if there is someone, then we should let them know. But I don't know where that is.
I've not heard that anybody's been appointed yet.
Okay.
Have they
So,
solicited anyone?
is that it? I mean, are we ready to go to minutes? Yes, so we can let Sean and Ashley go
I
home?
forwarded the
Thank you.
applications
Thank
tomorrow
you,
to the
guys.
board.
Tomorrow it's 9:20?
Yes,
Yes, 9:20. Thank you.
I believe Mr. Lipa will be joining us for that too.
Okay. All right, some minutes. We are doing January 21st.
I don't think we can do that one.
No?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Lisa's No.
not here.
Okay, so we're gonna hold that over, and then February 13th?
Don't think we can do that one either.
Nope, all right, that was easy.
February 18th?
Oh, we can pull that off.
2, 3, 4.
Is that
Yeah,
the
that
one I
one we
just
can do.
reviewed?
Yeah, it's the one you did right as I walked out the door. I don't,
Yeah, it's
those
okay.
changes were not made yet.
Okay. Let me get back to where I was. Agenda minutes. Oops. Was it the 13th?
18th.
Oh, the 18th.
21st and 13th we're holding over, no quorum. I didn't get anything accomplished tonight. It's really hoping to get those done.
Here we go. Nope, that's not it.
The 18th doesn't have much on it.
I'm just looking for my, I was gonna pull up the one that I had.
I was gonna say, if you wanna pull up the one you made the changes so that they
Yeah.
can see them.
Yep,
think
that's
it's
what I'm
good.
gonna do. Here we go.
Calls it out.
There. All right. So there are the minutes. My suggestion was for the members present, we should just always, at this point, note that we have a member position that's vacant.
Okay?
Separate house on, this is with regard to the Burkdale public hearing, on their own individual lots. They went to the ZBA for variances and just add "and obtain them." Correct the spelling of "here." Sean Engineering
Sorry.
reviewed his engineering comments. And then I thought we could just have more of a header that says board member comments. And then, I don't know if this is a board docs issue, but you have the be it resolved to open the public hearing after the public hearing
Oh, I forgot
comments.
to move it, sorry.
Yeah, so just move that up to the top.
That's because I was rushing to get those out to everybody.
And then,
Yeah, they printed the end of the project, and then I have to move them, and I just forgot.
gotcha. And then on the next page, returning projects, Monroe Commons. Joel Mann is a project consultant. I don't believe he's an engineer, as far as I know. And traffic study, Creighton Manning. It's Creighton Manning.
Barrel,
That's
yeah.
what I figured you were. And then instead of, I don't know if that's Masler or Mazier, but you could just put chairwoman will reach out to Mazer Consulting. And at the beginning, instead of saying regarding the height of the building, say Joel Mann stated that with regard to the height of the building, we have applied so that we know who's applied.
Okay.
And then petition to amend town code for the HI district for a change to the maximum height requirements. And those were my edits. Do you guys have any additional? These are this was not a long meeting, so.
No. Just gave George a hard time to get
Do
online.
we have to close the meeting, public hearing? Oh, she has it. Okay, good.
Yep.
All right, yeah, I don't have any comments.
Okay, we're all good?
Good.
All right. I'll make a motion that we approve the February 18th, 2020 Planning Board minutes as amended. May I have a second?
I'll
Second.
Okay.
Which one?
Uh,
They're kind of tied.
I think Anthony was a little ahead there.
I think he was, yeah.
But it could be because you're further away, so it took longer to get here.
Sound travels a little quicker than that.
So with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain, I was not present.
Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Any nays? Any abstentions?
That's me.
And with that, motion carries. So our February 18th minutes are approved as amended. May I have John Allegro make a motion to close the public hearing?
You may not.
No, it's not a public hearing.
No, close the meeting.
You said public hearing.
Oh, sorry, close the meeting. Okay, someone else? Would they like to oblige?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn tonight's meeting.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.